Let's talk about the most underrated My Hero Academia set. What made it so underrated and where did it all go wrong? We're talking Heroes Clash. Set 3. I've been a part of three set releases as a player: Heroes Clash, League of Villains, and Undaunted Raid. And I can tell you that Heroes Clash definitely felt like more of a dud than League of Villains and Undaunted Raid, both in hype before the set and continued hype after the set. Why was this? What went so terribly wrong for this set? Why I remember it this way? Because I'll tell you what, I was making a video about my 10 favorite cards, and I was noticing that a lot of my favorite cards were coming from Heroes Clash. In Heroes Clash, we got a ton of very interesting and powerful cards, and that's a really good combo to have. Let me just read off some attacks here. Let's go into attacks, ultra rare and rare, and let's just read some of these off. Command Pigeon Flock, Invisible Infiltration, Extendo Hairstrike, Fierce Whirlwind, Focused Attack, Freezer Burn, Hardened Uppercut, Hulking Grimace, Piercing Needle, Somnambulism, Stun Grenade, Tetsu Thrashing, Twisting Azure Inferno. These were all very, very strong and interesting. Like cards like Tetsu Thrashing are just some of the most fun you can have with the 2-check. Stun Grenade, stunning 3 and drawing a Fury attack almost guaranteed. That's a ton of fun. Somnambulism, committing your rival's character for midnight. Hulking Grimace, getting to throw that out as Ochako 2. Funny Punch, Fierce Whirlwind, we're going to be destroying things and readying things. Not only did it have cards like those, which to me were better designed than a lot of attacks in sets 1 and 2. No offense to those, they were powerful, but cards like Back Alley Haymaker, Texas Smash, Indiscriminate Shock, Tongue Whip, these are powerful cards, but they're not particularly interesting, whereas set 3, I felt like really hit the nail on the head with combining powerful and interesting. Not only that, but set 3 gave us a ton of staples in the game. We get Easily Excited, Basic Training, Snack Time, Prehensile Tail, Cheerleader, Chivalrous Competitor. Just a ton of staples here to get in the box. So why does it feel like, looking back on it, that it was a dud? And I think that's 3 reasons. And let's talk about how UVS Games has changed for the better and some reasons why I am sort of worried about the release of Jetburn here in a few months. The first reason it went wrong is because of a botched rollout. This was the first set of chromes. They did not tell us where the chromes were, so people were finding them in the common, uncommon slot and being surprised, and then a lot of people just throw away their bulk when they open them. Who knows how many chromes have been thrown away? I would guess quite a bit. Not only that, but they had first edition and unlimited edition. Chromes were only found in first edition, but stores were not told until the last moment that they were only getting 60% of their order as first edition and 40% as unlimited edition. Then they had to tell their players, would you mind taking unlimited please instead of first edition? Of course, nobody wanted to. So then later UVS Games said, okay, if you buy unlimited, we're going to give you an extra credit promo. It's going to have one of these 5 extra credit promos in it, but we're not going to tell anybody that we short printed Release and Destined for Mainstream Success, the promo that everybody wants. So then people are buying unlimited boxes, but they're not even getting the promos that they want. They're getting tons of these irrefutable forces of nature and constantly improvings, and they're not getting the chase cards. And they weren't upfront about the chase cards were short printed. And then people who had purchased the unlimited at the beginning were upset because they didn't get extra credit promos. So we just had this whole botched rollout. Not only that, but because of chromes, a lot of people purchased the product. People blame it on the chromes. It might be that there was just too much product printed. I'm really not sure, but definitely there was more product being opened than there was demand for. And so the set very quickly crashed in terms of value. And pretty soon you were paying $100 for a box and you were only going to get $25 or $30 of value from the box. I do feel bad for everybody who sold Chivalrous Competitors for like $3 at the beginning before that card took off, to $40 after the HLC. But you just weren't getting value from the box, and so it crashed that way. The second reason that it felt like a dud is that when you were opening a box of Heroes Clash, you had a chance at 8 different characters, and that was it. 8. Undaunted Raid has 18 different characters, and you're guaranteed a character in every single pack that you open. Let's just read the characters that we got in Heroes Clash, and let's see if these are characters that could carry a set. We got Koda, Ojiro 2, Shoji 2, Sato 2, Stain 2, 13, Shigaraki 2, Toru 2. None of these characters are very popular except for the villains, Stain and Shigaraki, which is ironic considering the set is called Heroes Clash. But none of these characters are particularly popular. This is the only set that we get without a new version of Midoriya. We're not getting Shoto, we're not getting Ochako, we're not getting Ida, we're not getting Bakugo, we're not getting All Might in the box. There's no chase characters here, and none of these characters are particularly powerful. The only super powerful character was Ojiro 2, and Ojiro 2 was super powerful but wasn't particularly interesting from a power standpoint. So it was a real dud when it came to characters. Of course, Undaunted Raid has changed this because the popular characters should be the powerful characters. You might not agree with this take, but from a marketing standpoint, popularity should equal power level, and that's just how it is. Like for this set, we got Amajiki, Nejire, Midoriya 4, Mirio, Overhaul. These are very, very popular characters, and so they were made very powerful. Then the side tier characters like the 8 Bullets, they're not nearly as powerful, but they are still very interesting to play. So it's, anyway, a huge win for UVS Games and how they adjusted for set 5 compared to set 3, because this was just a dud on the characters. And fundamentally, this is a character-driven game. That is the most important aspect, is the character. And so you can't whiff on the characters in a set as bad as Heroes Clash did. The last reason that it really fell flat was the lack of competitive events. So Heroes Clash came out right before Nationals. So nobody really had time to integrate these cards into their decks beyond the very, very obvious inclusions. But there wasn't a lot of time for out-of-the-box thinking. And because everybody, of course, wanted their HLC invite because it's a $250,000 event. Then we don't have any competitive events until the HLC, and then everybody's playing, most people are playing boring decks at the HLC because it's a $250,000 event. Of course, we saw some neat things with the Midnight decks and the Death Eraser head decks, the beginning of that really neat combo deck that Jose just recently won the webcam RLE with. But we also saw a ton of Jiros that were using all set 1 cards. So we had no competitive events for Heroes Clash. And we didn't get competitive events until League of Villains had been out for a while, right? It was like early April when we had the first US RLE in Florida. And so we went seriously from late October, early November to early April with no competitive event. That's 6 months. How can you go half a year without a competitive event? And so it just felt, we never really got to see the set 3 meta. We hardly ever got to see it because we jumped immediately into the set 4 meta. And this brings me to Jetburn, because I am really worried about the release of Jetburn here for the same reason, for the competitive events. It sounds, UVS Games has done a great job at changing its characters. It sounds like we are getting a ton of interesting characters. We are getting Hawks, we're getting a new Endeavor. It sounds like we're getting a new Bakugo and Shoto and Midoriya. Sounds like we're getting Ochako and Toga. From a character standpoint, it's going to be an awesome box. It's not going to repeat the same errors of set 3. Chromes, it feels like they finally, we don't have an unlimited edition and a first edition anymore. It's all just 1 edition, and they're going back to characters, and everybody knows where to find them now. So I feel like Chromes are in a good spot right now, and I do think that Chrome Rares are good for the game. They're an amazing thing to open. It's a once-in-a-lifetime pull. So I think you have to keep the hope of that alive. But I am worried about the lack of competitive events. We have not been told about any competitive events following Nationals. We have not been told anything about the HLC or the HLC prizing. We don't know anything about when set 7 drops, or if it's even going to be My Hero Academia. We just haven't been told anything, and so I am really worried that we are going to have another situation like Heroes Clash, where the set drops, and now it's dropping after Nationals, so the only competitive event that we'll have is the HLC, and then we won't have any RLEs until like set 7 drops. This is my worry. Hopefully this does not happen. I am really hoping this does not happen, because that can just kind of kill a set when you don't immediately see how it changes the meta. Of course, they are doing a better job with like holding Wednesday weekly webcam every single week, but we really want these big competitive events. So I am worried about that going forward. But those were the three things that took down Heroes Clash in my mind. If I missed anything, feel free to let me know in the comments or what your experience with Heroes Clash, because in my mind, it was received as a dud and kind of a stinker. But when I look back on it and I look back on the cards, I'm amazed at how many staples of the game and just really, really fun attacks came out of that set. And that is going to do it for me. I've got a lot of interesting content coming out later this week, and we are going to be getting ready for the Rochester RLE.